Hi, this is Charlie Setterfield. I'm going to walk you through the philosophy of Revit as it comes out of the box, and then Revit as it might be used as a custom template or a custom platform within an architectural office. So I'm going to bounce back and forth between a PowerPoint presentation with some graphics on it and the actual Revit application. So bear with me as we bounce around here just a little bit. So Revit out of the box comes with a series of templates that are included. The commercial, the construction, the default, and the residential. Those are the four standards. And so I want to switch real quick and take a look at what those look like. So I'm on the gray screen that I get when I first start up Revit, and I'm going to open a new project, and I want to see the templates dialog box first. So I'm going to hit open, slide over to project, and actually go ahead and click on project. That takes me into this new project dialog box. I'm going to browse through the template files that are here, and notice I'm in the Imperial Library, and I'm looking at construction, commercial, default, and residential as my four choices, and I'm going to open the commercial one to take a look at what's going on there. And I want to open this as a new project, not a project template. So I'm going to go ahead and click open. And then as long as I've got it, I'm going to go ahead and open another project. So the purple R, drop down to new, slide over to project, and go ahead and click on that. And this time I want to open the residential template. So I click on that and then click open. And again, I'm creating a project, not a template, so I just click OK. So now I've got two projects open, and I'm going to tile my windows by using the keyboard shortcut WT. And that allows me to bounce back and forth between these two. And then, okay, so what I just did was I eliminated my properties dialog box so that I could see more of the project browser here and be able to toggle back and forth between these two windows and show you what's different in the project browser. So first thing that I notice is that my entry-level floor plan is called two different things. In a residential project, it's called a first floor plan. In a commercial project, it's called a level 1 plan. And so if I look at my project browser over here, I can see that if I'm in residential, which is this guy, my views and my floor plan views look like this, and they're all set up for residential. If I toggle over into my commercial template, then they're set up a different way. I'm looking at level 1, and there's only one, so I'd have to add more as I get a bigger building, and various things are different throughout my project. I'm going to bring back the properties dialog box by clicking on the View tab up at the top, and then the drop down under the user interface and click on properties to bring that back. And the reason why I want to do that is to show you some of the different components that are preloaded in the various templates. So I'm going to go to the Home tab and click on Component, and I am in the commercial template right now. And so in my properties dialog box here, I'm going to get rid of this project browser for a minute. So I'm going to toggle back and forth between these two projects to show you what's different about the various preloaded conditions. So on the Home tab, if I click on Component and I'm in the commercial project, I get components like troffer lights, commercial toilets, desks, commercial lighting fixtures, that kind of thing. If I toggle back over here and now I'm in my residential template, and I do that same thing, I click on the Home tab and I click on Component, then I'm looking at things that are more residential in nature. So I've got a clothes dryer, refrigerator, a sofa, some domestic toilet, that kind of thing, kitchen cabinets. So you can see that my preloads that are in here are different, not only for components but also for some of my system families and some of my system settings. So for instance, my project browser is a system setting, and it looks a little bit different in each one of these. So we've looked at the commercial construction default and residential templates, and so we can set those that concept off to the side for a minute. But now we need to look at another default item that comes with Revit as it comes out of the box, which is the library. So I want to take you back into Revit, so I'm going to toggle back to that one. There we go. And I've put it back to how it looked when it first got opened. This is the commercial template that I'm in, and I'm going to say that I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I want to place a component in my model. So I go over to my dialog box, I click the drop down there, and I can see what I've got that's available to click and place into my model. I can put a desk out here. I could put whatever it is that I want, a cooktop out here, and you know, just place things as I need them. Well, what if I'm looking for something that's not there? That's the whole purpose of the library. So let's click on this Modify Place Component tab up there at the top of our screen, and this time I want to look for something that's not already in my Components menu that's here. So I'm going to click on Load Family. And what that's going to do for us is to open our Imperial Library, and now I'm looking at all of the component classes that I can use to import into my Revit project. And so, for instance, I was just placing a desk, which is furniture, so I'm going to open that. There's all the furniture that's in here. And at this point, I don't have a difference between commercial and residential, default, or construction templates. I can pull any component out of the library and put it into any project. So like for instance, bunk bed would probably be considered a residential component, but I'm going to put it into this commercial model. So I click once on it. I see that preview over on the right hand end of that menu, and yep, that's the one that I want. So I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to have that component pop up on my cursor, and I can place it in my model. I'm going to click on 3D just to show you that I'm actually getting these things. So there they are. So that's the idea of the library. All of these things are kind of generic models that Autodesk has created and packaged with the software. So it's not real specific in terms of manufacturers or being what I would consider a real component. These are certainly valuable and certainly useful, but I can't go to the store necessarily and buy one of them. So we've looked at the project templates, and now we've looked at the library that is full of kind of generic components that I can bring into a model or a project. And now we want to consider some of the other sources that we have for getting components into our models or our projects. One of them is Autodesk Seek, which was introduced by Autodesk a couple of years ago, and it's an online version of that same library that you're seeing, but it's a little bit more specific. Let's go take a look at how that might work. So let's go back into Revit, and I'm going to use the Seek function that's within Revit. I can get to it a couple of different ways, but I'm going to click on the Insert tab up here, and then on this right hand end of that ribbon I've got an Autodesk Seek dialog, so I can type in there, I'll just use the generic bed and see what I can find. Now be careful that you're not typing in this top ribbon where it says type a keyword or phrase. That's actually going to take you to the wiki help for Revit, and so you don't want to type, find a bed in that one, because it's not going to give you what you're looking for. So type it into the Autodesk Seek pane and then click on the binoculars to go and find that. It automatically opens an Internet Explorer for you and takes you to a variety of available products, and you'll notice that these aren't quite that same generic looking bunk bed. So I'm going to click on that top one there, and you can see that this is actually put in here by a manufacturer. So Max Secure has created this. I can go over here into the download area. I can select it and I can download it to local if I want to. I need to accept those conditions, and then I'll be able to actually download it and take a look at it and load it into my project if I want to. Let's not go through this process right now, but you get the idea that what I'm going to have is a real bunk bed that I could actually use. So that's one of the ways that we could get back to better content or more specific content within our Revit project. There are other places to find that same kind of component. You can go directly to manufacturers, you can go to the ARCAT website, and then there are other providers like BIM World and things like that. So surf the web and you'll find some stuff and be able to use it. So we've looked at the templates, we've looked at the library, we've looked at ways of finding other kind of more real content. And those are all components in the library and online. Those are all components that we might load into our project. But Revit has some system families and some system settings that we need to be aware of as well. This is a little bit different than a component. These are housed within the Revit platform itself. And so this works a little bit differently. I want to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go back to Revit for a minute here. A system family is something that we'll spend a whole lesson on later in this series. But if I go to the Home tab and I click on Wall, a wall that I'm going to draw across here, that wall is a system family. Roofs, floors, all sorts of things are system families. Curtain walls, stairs, railings, ceilings. The thing that makes these different is that my geometry is more complex, and we'll spend some time in the lesson on this, where those components that I was placing a minute ago, I could just click once and place that component, that bed, but to place a system family I have to give it more information, and it's all about the geometry. The other thing that I have after system families is system settings. System settings, let's go back to Revit. System settings are going to be things like sheets and views. When I look at my project browser over here and I slide down through that, I've got sheet numbers, I've got preset sheets in terms of content. So maybe I've got a schedule sheet here, this A13. I open that and it's got certain schedules already on it. Logos, all sorts of things are already in this template, and those are system settings. I can control both of those. So how would it work? So if I start a project straight out of the box using Revit, I need to pick a template. The one that I've been working in here has been the commercial template, and so I use that as my starting point. I have to use a template. I can't just start with a completely blank slate. Even the default template has some content already in it and some system settings and system families. So I need to pick a template to start with, and then I can start my project. So a little bit more detail on it. In the straight out of the box version, I'm going to start with a template like the commercial template, and from that I get my project. That template is counting on the default system families and default system settings that we were just looking at, things like the project browser and information like that. And then I'll be able to bring in content, kind of standard content, from my library and from those other sources that we were looking at. And so that's how I would do it if I were, doing a one-off kind of thing, and I was never going to repeat any of this again in the future. Well, what I might want to think about instead is actually setting up a custom template that I could use in my office. So things that I'm going to do to every project, like put my logo on it, or put my name and address on it, or use my particular sheet, or my sheet numbering, or if I've got a client that uses a custom piece of furniture in every project, why not have that available? So I'm going to look at an office standard or a custom template that we're going to be able to use. And then in addition to that, that custom template needs to be able to draw on custom system families and custom system settings. And then our workflow might look something more like this. So I'm going to start Revit just as the platform, so I get to that gray screen, and then I'm going to be able to go in and pick an Office Standard template to start with. So I'd have at least 5 templates in my library there instead of just the commercial construction default and residential. I'm going to have an Office Standard or whatever we're going to call it. And from that I get my project. So my template already has some things set up in it. So system families and system settings are already set. And then in my project, I can bring in things like I would in any other project from the library, those kind of generic components that I can get from the library, or more realistic components that I can get from Autodesk Seek or Revit City or places like that. But then notice on the right-hand side over here, I've got a custom library that I could make as well. And that's where it gets really interesting. So I want to be able to make those custom components and custom items that I'm going to use over and over, and it's important where I store those things, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So as I'm doing my project here, I have my default library and then I've got my custom library. The difference between those two is that default library could get overwritten each year as I update my software. So as I download 2014 or whatever it is, maybe it overwrites that library and maybe I lose things. So what I don't want to do is spend time creating custom content and storing it in that regular library. What I want to do instead is to have a custom library that's applicable only to my firm, and that's where I'm going to store my custom things. Whether they're title blocks or furniture or whatever, I'm going to store my items there. I also need to develop and maintain standards for the system families and the system settings. Those items don't reside in the library. Those are in my custom template. And so that's going to be something that I'm going to have to be careful with. Is there a way to get them if I lose them? Yes. I can do a transfer standards if I need to. But let's see if we can't create a custom template that works instead. So that's the point of this series of videos, is to walk you through the process of getting familiar with system families, system settings, and how to manage Revit as we roll it out in a firm.